Another major U.S. financial institution applies for a Bitcoin ETF. Also, today, a strange Tether FUD article drops. Welcome back, everybody. All right, let's dive into this because we just keep having more and more bullish news come out. This is a tweet from HODLNOT, and I think he hit the nail on the head, especially if you're zooming out and you're trying to paint a bigger picture here of what's going on. So let's dive into it. So the establishment had a sit down and decided to pump Bitcoin. Really does seem like it, Space Cat. Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin is for enemies too. And what's he referring to? Santander Bank put out this tweet on June 16th. Lightning Network enables high volumes of instantaneous micropayments supporting millions of transactions per second. All the pros and cons in our Digital Assets 101 series. So, I mean, that's definitely the timing of this seems very peculiar. Now, let's move on to this, the piece of news that broke last night, which is this. $87 billion Wisdom Tree officially files for spot Bitcoin ETF. That's right. Another company is now applying for a Bitcoin ETF. So if we just kind of round it out here, okay, we've got BlackRock that's doing this. We've got Fidelity that has applied for it or is looking to purchase Grayscale. They're not really 100% sure. And then we've got Deutsche Bank that announced custody services, that they were going to start custody services yesterday. And then late last night, we get this news from Wisdom Tree that they're filing for a Bitcoin trust. Now, this is where it gets kind of weird. And maybe it's related, maybe it's not. I think it is, and I'll explain why. Let's dive into this article. Tether bought commercial paper from subsidiary of alleged terrorist-linked bank. Okay, here we go. Here we go. The terrorism, right? It's the best reason to shut anybody out of the financial system, right? And again, I'm in no way, shape, or form in support of terrorism or anything like that. I'm just saying that that is always a great reason to stop somebody from participating in the monetary system. Or in, let's say, the most liquid monetary system. Anyways, let's continue. The recently revealed list of Tether's commercial paper holdings has surprised many due to the firm's significant exposure to Chinese banks. I want you guys to keep that in mind. Significant exposure to Chinese banks. What may be more worrying is that Tether has also bought commercial paper from several banks with checkered records. One of these banks is apparently a subsidiary of a Qatari bank known to breach AML regulations and service extremist and terrorist groups. Tether bought a total of $49.8 million worth of commercial paper with an interest rate of 0.2765% from AKCB Falcon Limited, a subsidiary of Masraf Al Rayan. The Islamic bank is headquartered in Qatar and owned by the Qatari state with a branch in the UK. AKCB Falcon Limited was previously a subsidiary of Al Khalij Commercial Bank that merged with Masraf Al Rayan, creating the second biggest bank in Qatar. Masraf Al Rayan was recently found to be in breach of AML rules by the UK financial regulator, the Financial Conduct Authority, for accepting up to £23 million without being fully aware of and declaring its origin. As a result, the bank was fined £4 million. There you go. It's pay to play. Just want to get paid. They just want to make sure. That's how you fix the problem. Masraf Al Rayan clients also had their accounts in other banks such as HSBC, Barclays, NatWest, and Lloyds closed down. Crypto researcher Chain Argos detailed other shady entities from which Tether bought commercial paper. These include Chesham Finance Limited, Finance LLC, whose commercial paper was rated as negative by Moody's. Just to keep everything in perspective, right? Moody's is a ratings agency, which is also publicly traded. And just to remind everybody, during the 2007-2008 financial crisis, Moody's rated them with AAA, which is their highest rating. So just to keep things in perspective, like the fact that Moody's rated any of these institutions as negative doesn't really matter, considering it's pay to play. right? Like clearly the mortgage lenders were not AAA paper, and yet Moody's rated them that way. So just to put things in perspective, okay? Tether is backed by commercial paper, with the most of it coming from Chinese entities, 51%, followed by 29% from European entities and 14% from the Middle East. Only 3% of Tether's commercial paper was from entities in the US. And that's right, guys. That's my whole thesis is that if we zoom out, we can see that all of these big US players, okay, big US players are coming to Bitcoin, and they're setting up ETFs. And when you look at Tether, only 3% of the paper that it bought is from the US. So that's really troubling. And the majority of its business was done with Chinese banks, which is also very troubling. So I wonder if the narrative against Tether would change if more of the paper that they bought was from US entities. But yeah, so my whole assertion is that this Tether FUD is different. Okay, so we've seen a lot of other Tether FUD, and I'm not saying that this Tether FUD necessarily means anything. I'm just saying that now I believe that the narrative is going to switch, and it is switching, and that's evidenced by the fact or the idea being put forth that Tether is doing business with shady entities that are in breach of AML and KYC regulations. Plus, they've bought a lot of Chinese paper. So, got to be careful. You can't trust Tether. Now, don't get me wrong. You can't trust any of these entities anyways. But I believe that they've set their sights on Tether. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some type of a coup attempt, okay, where they try to make their own stable coin to take Tether's place. Of course, it would be a stable coin that would be run by the quote unquote approved entities, right? Such as the ones that are applying for Bitcoin ETFs right now, like BlackRock, who, what was it? Out of 576 ETF applications, 575 throughout their history have been applied. So one has been rejected in all of its history. Do we really think the Bitcoin ETF will be the second? Anyways, so my point is that I do think that this Tether news is not just some random throwaway news. I do think that there is a picture that is going to start being painted that, at least in the corporate-owned media's eyes, that Tether is very dangerous and it needs to be fixed. So, anyways, we'll see what happens. I definitely think that none of this stuff is coincidence. I also had heard that the Silk Road BTC had started to move as well. So isn't that convenient, right? So all of these forces are converging. Anyways, guys, that's my clip for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you all tomorrow.